Vex considered the question carefully. No. For now, we maintain the appearance of cautious but interested newcomers to this situation. Let's see what else they volunteer before showing our hand. Deception, sir? Jax asked, sounding uncomfortable. Prudence, Vex corrected firmly. We know nothing about these humans except what they have chosen to tell us. Until proven otherwise, we treat this as a potential security situation. 3 hours later, Vex led a larger delegation back to the horizon. Captain Donovan greeted them with the same diplomatic smile, but Vex noticed a subtle tension in the human's posture. Fleet Commander, Donovan said, extending his hand in that curious human greeting. I trust your superiors found our proposal interesting. They are dispatching a science vessel to verify our findings. Vex replied truthfully. Standard procedure for discoveries of this magnitude. Donovan nodded. Of course, we expected nothing less. In the meantime, perhaps your specialists would like to examine our technology more closely? Under supervision, naturally. Naturally, Vex echoed, keeping his tone neutral. And perhaps we could learn more about these dragons. Their history, capabilities, biology, if such a term even applies to interdimensional beings. Dr. Turner would be delighted to answer your questions, Donovan said, gesturing to where the silver-haired scientist stood waiting. She's our foremost expert on dragon physiology and behavior. As the Federation scientists split into groups to examine different aspects of the human ship and its draconic power source, Vex found himself walking alongside Captain Donovan through a section he hadn't seen before. Your living quarters? He asked, noting the more personalized spaces. Recreation areas, mostly, Donovan explained. Even with fold space travel, journeys can be lengthy. We find it important to maintain both physical and mental well-being. They pass what appear to be an exercise facility, a communal dining area, and most surprisingly, spaces filled with growing plants. You cultivate vegetation on your vessels? Vex asked, unable to hide his surprise. Donovan smiled. Hydroponics provides fresh food, helps recycle our atmosphere, and offers psychological benefits. There's something deeply comforting about growing things, even in the void of space. Inefficient, Vex commented. Perhaps by Federation standards, Donovan conceded. But humans have always prioritized quality of life alongside efficiency. It's one of our defining characteristics. They continued walking, eventually reaching an observation deck with a transparent ceiling that offered a stunning view of stars and the Federation ship in the distance. Beautiful, isn't it? Donovan said, gazing upward. No matter how many star systems I visit, the wonder never fades. Vex found himself nodding in agreement before he could stop the gesture. One commonality among spacefaring species, it seems. The cosmos inspires awe, regardless of biology. Donovan turned to face him directly. Commander, I sense your caution, and I respect it. In your position, I would harbor the same concerns. Would you? Vex asked, genuinely curious. You have partnered with creatures of legend that can apparently manipulate the fabric of reality itself. That suggests a certain recklessness. The human captain laughed, a sound that reminded Vex oddly of musical notes. I suppose it might appear that way, but our relationship with the dragons developed gradually, over decades of cautious interaction. We didn't simply stumble upon Cora and immediately strap her to our engine room. Then how did it happen? Vex asked, finding himself genuinely interested despite his suspicions that Donovan's expression grew distant, as if looking back through memories. It began with dimensional physics experiments, attempts to create more efficient FTL drives. We detected anomalies, patterns that couldn't be explained by our understanding of space-time. For years, we thought they were simply natural phenomena, until Vex prompted when the human paused. Until one of our research stations recorded what we initially classified as a hallucination. A researcher claimed to have seen a massive serpentine creature phase through the station's walls, examine their equipment, and disappear. We would have dismissed it, except the entire incident was recorded by multiple sensors. Cora, Donovan nodded, though we didn't know her name then. She was curious about us, about why we were prodding at the barriers between dimensions. It took nearly 5 years of sporadic encounters before meaningful communication was established. And now you use these beings as living engines, Vex observed, unable to keep a hint of judgment from his voice. Donovan's expression hardened slightly. We don't use them, Commander. I can't stress that enough. The dragons exist primarily in fold space, a dimension overlapping but distinct from our own. They could traverse our reality temporarily, but it's uncomfortable for them over extended periods. What our ships provide is a stable interface, a comfortable space where they can maintain a connection to our dimension without the strain of fully entering it. And in return, they warp space-time for your convenience, Vex said skeptically. It's not effort for them, Donovan insisted. It's their natural ability, like breathing or walking is for us. Working with us allows them to exercise these abilities while helping another species. And as Cora explained, it provides them with stable environments for reproduction, something increasingly rare in their native fold space. Because Donovan hesitated. That's complicated. Even after decades of partnership, there's much we don't understand about dragon ecology. What we do know is that their reproductive cycles depend on specific energy conditions that have become scarcer in fold space. Our ships simulate these conditions. Before Vex could pursue this line of questioning further, his communicator chimed. Commander, Myra's voice came through, sounding shaken. You need to see this. We are in what they call Integration Chamber 3. On my way, Vex replied, giving Donovan a questioning look. The human captain simply nodded. I will take you there. Integration Chamber 3 was smaller than Cora's chamber, but no less impressive. Inside, Federation scientists huddled around monitoring equipment while Dr. Turner supervised what appeared to be a medical procedure. In the center of the chamber, partially embedded in the interface field, was a dragon unlike any Vex had seen before. This one was smaller, perhaps only 10 meters long, with scales that shimmered between green and gold. And surrounding it, floating in what looked like suspended animation, were oval objects roughly the size of Vex's torso. Eggs, Dr. Turner explained, noticing their arrival. Xyler here is in the final stage of preparing to lay her clutch. Vex stared in amazement. You are breeding them. They are breeding, Turner corrected gently. We are merely providing the conditions they need. In nature, or rather in fold space, this would happen perhaps once in a millennium when the right energy configurations align naturally. One of the Federation xenobiologists approached, excitement practically radiating from her. Commander, the readings are extraordinary. These eggs are exhibiting quantum properties I have never seen before. They exist simultaneously in our dimension and in fold space. Is that normal? Vex asked, looking to Dr. Turner. The human scientist nodded. Dragon offspring need to acclimate to both dimensional states from the moment they are conceived. The eggs will remain in this quantum superposition until they hatch, at which point the hatchlings will learn to transition between dimensions at will. Vex watched as the dragon, Xyler, gently repositioned the floating eggs with careful movements of her long, elegant tail. Despite his lingering suspicions, he couldn't deny the beauty of the scene. How many dragons do you currently have partnered with your species? He asked. 47, Captain Donovan answered, spread across our exploration fleet and research stations. Each one is a volunteer, and each has a specialized role depending on their abilities and preferences. And when these eggs hatch, the hatchlings will remain with their parent for several years, learning to control their abilities. After that, they will make their own choices about whether to partner with us, return fully to fold space, or explore independently. Something about that answer bothered Vex, though he couldn't immediately identify why. Before he could examine the feeling further, his communicator chimed again. Commander, came the urgent voice of his bridge officer. Federation Science Vessel Empirical Truth has arrived ahead of schedule and is requesting immediate communication. That was fast, Vex muttered, then louder. I will return to the shuttle. Inform them I'm on my way. As he turned to leave, Captain Donovan spoke. Commander, we understand your need for verification. We welcome your scientists and their tests. But I must insist that any procedures involving the dragons directly be non-invasive and approved by both the dragons themselves and our xenobiologists. Vex narrowed his eyes. The Federation doesn't perform cruel experiments, Captain. I didn't suggest otherwise, Donovan replied calmly. But different species have different definitions of invasive. What might seem harmless to you could be deeply distressing to a being that perceives reality in ways we're still struggling to comprehend. With a curt nod, Vex departed, his mind racing with new questions. The human's concerns seemed genuine, but it could easily mask other motives. Why were they so protective of beings supposedly capable of traversing dimensions at will? Surely such creatures could defend themselves if necessary. Back aboard the Eternal Vigilance, Vex was surprised to find not only the expected communication from the empirical truth, but a direct holographic connection to the Science Council itself. The projected image of Chief Science Counselor Dravzoffer, a venerable Illyrian with age-whitened scales and eyes that had witnessed centuries of discovery, hovered in the command center. Fleet Commander, the ancient scientist greeted with unusual intensity. Your discovery has created quite the stir. The Council was in emergency session within minutes of Admiral Perrin's report. Vex bowed respectfully. Counselor, I didn't expect such an immediate response. How can we not respond immediately? Zoffer asked, his voice vibrating with barely contained excitement. If verified, this discovery represents the single greatest advancement in dimensional physics in Federation history. That wasn't the reaction Vex had expected. Then you believe it's possible? These dragons actually exist. Possible. Zoffer's ancient face split into an expression of delight. My dear Commander, we have been searching for evidence of interdimensional entities for centuries. Our most advanced theoretical models predicted their existence, but direct observation has always eluded us. He leaned forward, his holographic image seeming to strain toward Vex. And now you tell us not only have these humans found them, but they have established communication, formed a symbiotic relationship. It's beyond our most optimistic projections. Vex felt oddly deflated. He'd expected skepticism, demands for proof, perhaps even orders to quarantine the human ship until more thorough investigations could be conducted. Instead, the Science Council appeared ready to embrace the discovery with open arms. Counselor, with respect, shouldn't we approach this with more caution? These humans have effectively leapfrogged centuries of technological development through their partnership with these beings. The strategic implications are secondary to the scientific ones, Zoffer interrupted firmly. Think, Commander, if these dragons have visited all our worlds in ancient times, they represent a unifying factor in our evolutionary and cultural histories. The philosophical and archaeological implications alone would revolutionize our understanding of sentient development throughout the galaxy. But the security concerns will be addressed appropriately, came a new voice. Admiral Perrin's hologram materialized beside Zoffer's. The Science Council's enthusiasm doesn't mean we are abandoning caution, Commander. The empirical truth carries our most sophisticated scanning and verification equipment, along with a security contingent if needed. Vex nodded, somewhat relieved. Have you reviewed all the data we transmitted? We have, Perrin confirmed. And while preliminary analysis supports your observations, we need direct confirmation. The empirical truth will dock with your vessel within the hour. Together, you will conduct a thorough investigation of both the human ship and these dragons. There's something else you should know, Vex said, lowering his voice despite the secure channel. The humans are breeding dragons. We witnessed a clutch of eggs in one of their integration chambers. They claim it's part of their symbiotic relationship, that they provide conditions necessary for dragon reproduction that have become rare in what they call fold space. Zoffer's eyes widened even further. Extraordinary. The reproductive cycle of interdimensional beings has been purely theoretical until now. We must observe this immediately, with appropriate security protocols, Admiral Perrin insisted, giving the scientist a stern look. Of course, Zoffer agreed, somewhat distractedly. "Commander Torin, prepare your ship for our arrival. This will be a most remarkable day for the Federation." As the transmission ended, Vex turned to find Mira watching him with a concerned expression. "You don't share their enthusiasm," she observed. "Would you?" he asked quietly. "Everything about this situation feels convenient. Humans, a species we have never encountered before, just happen to have formed a partnership with mythological creatures that just happen to have visited all our worlds in ancient times. You think it's some kind of elaborate deception?" Mira asked skeptically. "To what end? And how could they fake the energy readings, the spatial distortions, the telepathic communication?" "I don't know," Vex admitted. "But in 3,000 years of Federation history, we have never encountered anything like this. Why now? Why humans?" Before Mira could respond, the ship's sensors chimed, indicating the arrival of the empirical truth. The science vessel was impressive, nearly twice the size of the Eternal Vigilance, bristling with scanning arrays and specialized equipment. Within hours, a joint team from both Federation ships was aboard the Horizon. The human crew received them with the same diplomatic courtesy, but Vex noticed a subtle change in their demeanor, a watchfulness that hadn't been present before. In Cora's chamber, Chief Science Counselor Zafir stood in awe, his ancient form seeming to tremble with excitement as he gazed upon the massive dragon. "Magnificent," he whispered. "Truly magnificent. And you say you can communicate telepathically with all sentient species?" "Not all," came Cora's thought voice, audible now to everyone present. "Only those with sufficient neural complexity to receive and interpret our thought patterns. But yes, most spacefaring species possess this capability, whether they have developed it or not." Zafir turned to the Federation scientists. "Begin non-invasive scans. I want complete quantum-level readings of both the dragon and the interface field." As the scientists deployed their equipment, Captain Donovan approached Vex. "Your science counselor seems quite enthusiastic. The discovery of a lifetime," Vex replied neutrally. "Wouldn't you be?" Donovan smiled faintly. "I was. When we first established true communication with Cora, I didn't sleep for 3 days. The implications were overwhelming. And now it feels like the most natural thing in the universe," the human said simply. "Perhaps that's the most remarkable part. How quickly the extraordinary becomes ordinary when you live with it daily." The scanning proceeded for hours, with Zafir growing increasingly animated as the data poured in. The Federation scientists huddled around their equipment, exclaiming over readings and debating interpretations. "The quantum signatures are unlike anything in our database," one physicist announced. "She exists simultaneously in multiple dimensional states, with her primary mass centered in what appears to be a fold in space-time just adjacent to our reality. The interface field is ingenious," another added. "It creates a stable membrane between dimensions without forcing complete transition. The energy requirements should be astronomical, yet the system operates with remarkable efficiency." Zafir turned to Dr. Turner, his scientific curiosity overcoming any diplomatic reserve. "How did you develop this technology? The theoretical framework alone would take centuries of research." Turner smiled. "We didn't develop it entirely on our own. Once we established communication with Cora and her kind, they guided our understanding of dimensional physics. We provided the materials and basic engineering. They provided the knowledge of how to create a compatible interface." Guided by the dragons themselves, Zafir murmured, almost reverently, "A true partnership of intellects across dimensional barriers." Throughout these exchanges, Vex noticed Cora watching him specifically, those ancient golden eyes seeming to look through rather than at him. The sensation was unsettling. "You still harbor doubts," came her thought voice, suddenly private, directed only to him. Vex stiffened. "You are reading my mind without permission." "Not reading," Cora corrected gently. "Your thoughts are not words on a page to me. Rather, I sense emotional patterns, intention, focus. Your caution radiates like heat, Fleet Commander." "Can you blame me?" he asked mentally, testing the connection. This situation defies everything we understand about physics, biology, and galactic history. As it should, came the reply, tinged with what might have been amusement. The universe is far stranger and more wonderful than most sentient beings ever discover. Your Federation has barely scratched the surface of reality's true nature. And humans? They have somehow pierced this veil in less than 2 centuries of space exploration. Not because they are exceptional, Cora answered, but because they were receptive when opportunity presented itself. Many species would have reacted with fear, aggression, or worship when first encountering us. Humans offered partnership. Before Vex could pursue this line of questioning further, a commotion erupted near one of the scanning stations. A Federation scientist was staring at her readings with a shocked expression. "Counselor," she called urgently, "you need to see this." Zafir hurried over, followed by Dr. Turner and Captain Donovan. As they huddled around the scanner, Vex moved closer to hear their discussion. "These readings," the scientist was saying, her voice tight with controlled excitement. "The quantum signature of the interface field, it matches fragments recovered from the Viridian artifact." A hush fell over the chamber. The Viridian artifact was one of the Federation's greatest mysteries, a partial technological relic discovered centuries ago that defied all attempts at replication or complete understanding. It had been studied by generations of scientists, yielding tantalizing glimpses of advanced principles but never revealing its full secrets. Zafir turned slowly to face Cora, his ancient eyes wide. The Viridian artifact, it was dragon technology? Cora's massive head tilted in what might have been acknowledgement. "Not precisely. The artifact you discovered was a collaborative creation, a gift from my kind to the ancient Viridians, who once inhabited the system you now call Proxima Centauri. But the Viridians vanished 12,000 years ago," another scientist protested. "Their civilization disappeared without explanation." "They did not vanish," Cora corrected. "They evolved. With our guidance, they transcended their physical forms and migrated to fold space itself. They exist there still, though they would be unrecognizable to you now." Stunned silence followed this revelation. Vex felt as if the deck was tilting beneath his feet. If Cora was telling the truth, then everything the Federation believed about evolutionary development, about the ultimate fate of civilizations, about the very nature of existence, everything would need to be reconsidered. "You are saying," Admiral Perrin's voice cut through the silence as she stepped forward, having arrived during the scanning, "that an entire Federation cataloged species abandoned physical existence to live in another dimension? And you facilitated this?" "They chose their path," Cora replied simply, "as all sentient species eventually must. The Viridians reached a crossroads in their development. Continue in physical form with all its limitations, or transcend into a state of existence with greater freedom and potential. And you offer the same choice to humans." Vex asked sharply, "To all of us?" Captain Donovan shook his head. "That's not what this partnership is about, Commander. Humanity isn't ready for transcendence. Won't be for thousands of years, if ever. What the dragons offer is knowledge, transportation technology, and a deeper understanding of the universe. What happens with that knowledge is our choice." Admiral Perrin's scales had darkened to a deep blue, a sign of intense concentration among her species. "This changes the calculation considerably. We are no longer discussing simple first contact or even revolutionary propulsion technology. If what you're saying is true, dragons have directly influenced the evolutionary path of at least one advanced species. Many species throughout the cosmos," Cora confirmed. "Those who were ready and willing, never by force, always by choice." "And the Federation?" Zafir asked, his scientific curiosity clearly overriding any caution. "Have dragons guided our development as well?" "Not directly," Cora replied. "Our interactions with your member species occurred primarily in their pre-technological stages. We observed, occasionally communicated, sometimes inspired. But direct guidance? No. Your Federation evolved independently, according to your own choices. Until now, Admiral Perrin noted pointedly. Until now, Cora agreed. The time has come for more direct interaction. The cosmos faces challenges that require cooperation across dimensional boundaries. What challenges? Vex asked, suddenly alert. This was the first mention of any galactic threat that Cora's thought voice took on a graver tone. The balance between dimensions is degrading. The barriers between realities grow thin in places, unstable in others. Without coordination between those who dwell in normal space and those who inhabit fold space, catastrophic breaches could occur. Is this why dragon reproduction has become difficult in fold space? Dr. Turner asked, clearly connecting dots from earlier conversations. Yes, Cora confirmed. The energy patterns necessary for our reproductive cycle rely on stable dimensional boundaries. As these boundaries fluctuate, such patterns become rarer. Your ships provide artificially stable environments that compensate for this instability. Admiral Perrin exchanged glances with Zafir. Convenient that the solution to this dimensional crisis involves giving humans, and potentially the Federation, revolutionary technology that would reshape the balance of power throughout the galaxy. There is nothing convenient about necessity, Admiral, Cora replied with what felt like ancient patience. The degradation is real, as your scientists can verify with the right instruments. The partnership benefits all parties involved. Dragons gain reproductive stability, humans gain transportation technology, and all physical species gain protection from dimensional instability. We need time to process these claims, Admiral Perrin said firmly, to verify independently the existence of this degradation and consider the implications of such a partnership. Of course, Captain Donovan agreed. We expected nothing less. Earth itself spent years debating the Dragon partnership before fully embracing it. Take whatever time you need for verification and deliberation. As the Federation delegation prepared to withdraw and analyze their findings, Vex found himself lingering in Cora's chamber. The massive dragon watched him with those ancient, knowing eyes. You have been unusually quiet, Fleet Commander, she observed, her thought voice gentle. I'm processing, Vex admitted. If even half of what you have claimed is true, it represents the most significant moment in Federation history since our founding. And the other half? Cora asked, with what seemed like genuine curiosity. If even half is false, it represents the most sophisticated deception ever attempted against the Federation. Vex replied bluntly, his surprise. A rumbling sound emanated from the dragon, a physical manifestation of what he somehow knew was laughter. Caution serves leaders well, Cora said, but so does vision. Your Federation stands at a threshold, Fleet Commander. Through one door lies continuation, prosperity, advancement, but fundamentally unchanged. Through another lies transformation, not transcendence as the Viridians chose, but evolution nonetheless. And who decides which door we take? Vex asked. Dragons? Or months? Or the billions of citizens across 47 member worlds who comprise the Federation? The choice will always belong to those who must live with its consequences, Cora assured him. Dragons may offer guidance, but we do not compel. That is the fundamental principle of our existence. As Vex finally turned to leave, Cora's parting thought followed him. Remember, Fleet Commander, that myths endure for a reason. The dragons in your childhood stories were not mere fantasy, but echoes of truth preserved across millennia. What other truths might your legends contain, waiting to be rediscovered? 3 days later, the Federation Council convened in emergency session. Representatives from all 47 member worlds gathered virtually to hear the findings of the science team and debate the proposed Dragon partnership. Vex, Mira, and Admiral Perrin attended from the Eternal Vigilance, while Counselor Zafir presented from the Empirical Truth. Captain Donovan and Dr. Turner represented Earth, with Cora herself making a brief appearance via a portable interface field that allowed her thought voice to reach the entire assembly. The debate raged for hours. Some council members embraced the opportunity with almost religious fervor, seeing it as destiny fulfilled. Others cautioned restraint, fearful of unknown consequences or hidden agendas. The security implications, technological advantages, philosophical questions, and diplomatic protocols were all dissected from every conceivable angle. Through it all, Vex watched Captain Donovan. The human maintained a respectful, patient demeanor, answering questions directly without pushing for acceptance. It was not what Vex had expected from a species potentially offering galaxy-changing technology. When the final vote came, it was surprisingly decisive. 41 worlds in favor of pursuing a formal partnership, with 6 abstaining for further consideration. The Federation hereby accepts the proposed collaboration with both humanity and dragonkind, announced the Council President, her voice solemn with the weight of history. A joint commission will be established to oversee implementation, research, and diplomatic protocols. This truly marks the beginning of a new era for all our peoples. As the session concluded, Captain Donovan approached Vex with an extended hand. It seems we will be working together closely in the coming years, Commander. Vex took the offered hand, still finding the gesture strange, but recognizing its importance to humans. So it seems, Captain, though I suspect my role will be primarily ceremonial from here on. First contact has been established. The diplomats and scientists will take over now. Don't be so sure, Donovan said with a smile. Cora specifically requested your continued involvement. She appreciates your healthy skepticism, said something about balance requiring both visionaries and guardians. Vex blinked in surprise. She requested me? Why would an interdimensional being millions of years old care about my involvement? Donovan shrugged. Dragons have their own criteria for judging character, and their own ways of seeing potential futures. Perhaps you have a greater role to play in all this than either of us yet understands. As if on cue, Vex communicator chimed with a priority message. He checked it, then looked up at Donovan with a mixture of confusion and resignation. It seems I've been reassigned. Effective immediately, I'm to command the Federation's first Dragon-integrated vessel, once construction is complete. The Cosmic Bridge, they're calling it. Donovan's face lit up with genuine pleasure. Congratulations, Commander. You will be making history. If it works, Vex cautioned. Oh, it will work, Donovan assured him. The question isn't whether the technology functions. It's what we collectively choose to do with it. That's always been the real challenge of advancement. As they parted ways, Vex found himself gazing out a viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there, spanning the gulf between those points of light and extending into realms he could barely comprehend, dragons move through the fabric of reality itself. And now, for better or worse, the Federation was joining them on that journey. Well, he murmured to himself with characteristic dry humor, at least the commute to work should be more interesting. And somewhere, in the fold space between dimensions, Cora sensed his thoughts and rumbled with draconic laughter. The adventure, after all, was just beginning.